This is Clearview Television coming your way live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. Welcome to this edition of the Week in Review, which we will bring you some of the top stories that dominated the headlines in the week just ended. I am Prudence Okonna. It's no longer news that security in Nigeria remains a difficult challenge. The week opened with an appeal by residents of Alawa community in Shiroro local government area of Niger State for urgent protection from relevant authorities. Their appeal followed a daring attack on their community by gunmen. The co-convener concerned Shiroro youth Yusuf Koki, who made the appeal on behalf of the community, said the recent persistent attacks by criminals have forced them into seeking refuge in open camps and other communities.
Violent attacks on Alawa community dates back to 2015. Since then, well over 100 lives have been lost. Situated in Alakma axis of Shiroro local government area of Niger State, the Alawa community in recent times has been left at the mercy of bandits due to the withdrawal of military and paramilitary personnel from the community.
Unfortunately, bandits invaded Alawa, as a result of which 6 military paramilitary officers paid the ultimate price. This unfortunate incident led to the withdrawal of security task force in Alawa and Bassa, thereby leaving the towns at the mercy of criminals.
The incessant attacks of armed bandits on the Alawa community of Niger State has now prompted representatives of the community to seek a lasting solution to the ugly trend. They said they are no longer comfortable with the lackadaisical approach of dealing with the situation by some elected leaders of the community at both state and national levels. The representatives of the community also want to know the reason for the long silence of some leaders in helping the community to combat the crime overwhelming them.
The lackadaisical disposition of our political elites, the elected appointed representatives, particularly from Shiroro extraction, have been complacent by virtue of their indifferences. Specific to mention is the silence of Said Dokachiri, Ahmed Bawa Caesar, the member representing our people at House of Representatives and State Assembly.
The representatives of the violent-torn communities of Shiroro local government area said they would mobilize residents of the area to occupy government facilities as well as withdraw all civic responsibilities until their problems are solved.
We shall mobilize our displaced and hopeless kinsmen to occupy the shelter in government facilities within Mina if our plight is not addressed in earnest. Until our plights are addressed, we will boycott all civic responsibilities to the state.
It is the hope of residents of Alawa community that urgent measures will be taken by government to repel the unfortunate bandit attacks on the community.
Commenting on the spate of insecurity in the various parts of the country, former head of state and chairman of the National Peace Committee, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, during the week just ended, expressed concerns over the proliferation of all calibers of weapons in the country, which he estimated at 6 million. Abdulsalami's position enjoyed support from another former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, and other notable leaders like the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammadu Saad Abubakar III, and the President Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote. The eminent Nigerians, who all spoke at a dialogue session of the National Peace Committee with key stakeholders in Abuja, also raised concerns over the negative effects of growing insecurity in the land and sued for peace.
These eminent Nigerians spoke on the day Vice President Yemi Osinbajo charged the Acting Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, to address the multiple threats to the nation's public safety, law and order. Abdulsalami lamented that the proliferation of weapons has heightened insecurity in the country and led to over 80,000 deaths and close to 3 million persons internally displaced. He stated that the challenges facing the country were not only insecurity in the narrow sense of the military definition, but that it had assumed an all-encompassing nature. He listed the challenges to include the Boko Haram insurgency banditry, kidnapping, increasing poverty, balkanization agitations from different quarters, the threat of hunger arising from insecurity that farmers have faced and continue to face, and the increasing sense of collective despair and despondency among the populace. This certainly exacerbated the insecurity that led to over 80,000 deaths and close to 3 million internally displaced persons. He added that the situation is dire because security forces were not just overstretched, but lacked sophisticated weapons, equipment, and adequate funding.
There's no single silver bullet to solve our problems. We believe that by reaching out to you, you might identify some of the key problems, share what you can with us, and let us see what we can achieve together. The proliferation of caliber of weapons, not only in our sub-region in general, and in Nigeria in particular, is worrying.
While welcoming the stakeholders, which included traditional rulers, the Ekiti State Governor and Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Plateau State Governor and Chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, Honorable Simon Lalong, religious leaders, military, police, and other security agencies, Abdulsalami said President Muhammadu Buhari was aware of the meeting and he supported it. He said the expectation was that the meeting will find out the causes of the conflict and how to mitigate them. Gawan, who spoke via Zoom, urged all Nigerians, irrespective of religious and political differences, to see the nation's challenges, including insecurity, as ones that must be tackled and resolved collectively. On his part, the Sultan urged Nigerians to learn to love one another irrespective of religion or tribe.
That's the area, that's the time when we never differentiate between Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, and whatever. We see you first as human being, and if you decide to follow any religion, it's your own problem. And we as leaders, we have to know that we are going to account for this leadership God gave us.
In his remarks, Dangote pleaded with Nigerians to guard against sensationalizing reports of crisis so as not to heighten tension in the land. He said security issues should be everybody's business because no one can do any business in the absence of security.
And we articulate our issues, which we have done in the past. The only issue with us is that of implementation. Once we can get the implementation done, I'm telling you, I have not seen any greater nation than Nigeria. So it's not a hopeless case.
And look at this issue of creating state police. So how is state? Depends on the strength and requirement.
Any person that you train or you think you have trained to use equipment, sophisticated equipment, and so on and so forth, if he has not got the correct training, he's a danger to himself and to anybody else.
I want to implore the National Peace Committee to please find a way to give the politicians reorientation. There must be social reorientation.
Some of the prominent Nigerians who attended yesterday's dialogue session were Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja Catholic Archdiocese, Cardinal John Onoekon, Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Dr. Matthew Hazan Kuka, and His Royal Highness Alfred Dieterspief.
Early in the week, President Muhammadu Buhari appointed a Deputy Inspector General Usman Alkali Baba as Acting Inspector General of Police with immediate effect. Consequently, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo decorated Usman Alkali Baba with the rank of Inspector General of Police, IGP. The decoration ceremony held at the Vice President's Conference Hall at the State House in Abuja. Those present at the event included the former IGP Mohammed Adamu, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, the Minister of Police Affairs, Maigari Dingyadi, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, and his colleague in the Office of the Vice President, Laolu Akande. Also present was the Permanent Secretary, State House, Tijani Umar, and the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Police Affairs.
The police must now rebuild, in some ways also the broken bridges of trust with the public and regain the confidence of the citizenry. This is an ongoing challenge, it's an ongoing task that the police force and all of the senior members of the police force must take on as a responsibility, that of the continual process of building trust with the Nigerian public. One of the ways it can do this is by implementing the community policing policy, which had already taken off, and reconceptualizing policing as a task carried out in partnership with local communities and by officers who are members of these localities. Under your leadership, the force must live up to all of the highest standards for professional conduct and compliance with the rule of law. It must significantly improve the welfare and working conditions of its officers while rapidly scaling up its forensic, logistical and operational capacities to meet today's challenges. You must stamp out the excesses and abuses and the culture of impunity demonstrated by some elements of the force which provoke public outrage against the institution.
And following his declaration with his new rank by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Nigerians began to set an agenda for the new top police chief in view of the increased cases of kidnapping, banditry and all other forms of criminality. Clearview-TV's Mercy Eke was on the streets of Abuja City to collate the views of some Nigerians.
My advice to him is to focus, to be vigilant, to know what's going to happen all over 36 states. He should change all the commissioners all over the 36 states. And anyone who doesn't want to work, bring them to office. Those who want to work, you should send them to you should send it to the state to go and scrutiny and all the states. Whoever do anyhow, it will see anyhow. So this is our regime. We don't tolerate nonsense.
I don't have any advice to the new IGP because I know we will still go the same way. If there's no police reform, even if they like change IGs 20 times a day, the same system will still be there. If you change IG today, change IG tomorrow, change IG next tomorrow, it's still the same thing.
This is one of the greatest things I would say this administration has done, because the past IGP is just a total failure. He doesn't have any direction, and he's an agent of division based on the statement he's been making. And I believe the government the step they take is the right direction, and it's commendable.
You're still watching the Week in Review. The review continues after the break.
Clearview-TV is online.
Hello and welcome to Clearview Television News.
We're reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city,
Abuja.
But the daily 7 p.m. news is broadcast on DSTV channel 255, MITV, with particular reference to gainful employment for all. You can also link up as you like us on Facebook, Clearview Television, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Clearview-TV.
You're welcome back. At last, Kogi State government during the week just ended agreed that citizens of the state be vaccinated against the deadly COVID-19. The state government, however, promised that none of the citizens will be forced to take the jab. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Saka Haruna, made this position known at the official flag-off of the vaccination in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital. Clearview-TV's Organic Victor brought us that report.
The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Saka Haruna, said that while no one will be denied the opportunity of taking the vaccine, it is also the resolve of the state government not to compel any individual in the state to take the vaccine.
I want to appreciate His Excellency for making sure that the vaccine at the snip of time was finally deployed to Kogi State. I also want to clarify that nobody is exempted or will be deprived from this exercise. Also, nobody will be subjected to forced vaccination exercise in Kogi State. I want to state clearly that all that His Excellency has been saying can be categorized under the quaternary measure of disease prevention. We that are scientists, we know this. There are several levels of disease prevention. We have the primordial, we have primary, we have secondary, tertiary, and the last level, which is the quaternary measure of prevention, is the level that people often neglect, ensuring that you don't endanger the life of our people, even as you act to bring intervention to solve potential problems.
According to the Executive Director of Kogi State Primary Health Care Development Agency, Dr. Abubakar Yakubu, the first batch of recipients of the vaccine are the health workers.
I decided to take this vaccine because I am convinced, beyond all reasonable doubt, that this thing is safe and is real.
The management of the Federal Medical Center and officials of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) also had this to say on the vaccination exercise.
I want to start by saying that the preventive measures does not start and end with vaccination. So we are still obliged and encouraged to continue with the other preventive measures.
I have come as an advocate of taking the vaccine. I have taken the vaccine personally, and so I will be quick to also say that, like any other new innovation and like any other medication, there is hardly any medication on the shelf that does not have a side effect. It may have side effect for you, it may be mild, or you may not even have it at all.
So far, the vaccine has been served to some government officials, religious organizations, journalists, and others. Kogi State government received 16,900 units of the vaccine, and another 16,900 of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is being expected in the state in a couple of weeks. In Lokoja, the capital of Kogi State, Ogane Victor reporting for Clearview Television.
As part of moves to continue to expand educational opportunities for more Nigerians, the federal government in the Outgone Week presented provisional licenses to 20 additional private universities. The Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, while presenting the licenses in Abuja to proprietors of universities, promised that the present administration will continue to partner the private sector to provide quality university education.
In relation to Nigerian population of over 200 million, the approval of the 20 more private universities now brings to 99 private universities and total number of 193 universities in all. The Minister of Education said the current numbers of universities are low compared to those of other economies such as Brazil, that has 209 million population with 441 universities, Mexico, 126 million people with 375 universities, and Russia with 145 million people with 741 universities. The Executive Secretary, National University Commission, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, said NUC will ensure that the just licensed private universities meet up with standards and quality assurance.
The Commission, on behalf of government, will not tolerate any breach of the conditions for the approval of these licenses. Any unwholesome practice or operation outside the provisions of the NUC guidelines is unacceptable and will attract appropriate sanctions.
The Minister of State for Education, who stood in for the Minister of Education, Adamu, said the approved university will be mentored to ensure that they are on the right track.
The provisional approval for these 20 universities to operate is intended to create room for effective mentoring and qualitative growth within the first 3 years of operation. During this period, the universities will be affiliated to older generation universities for academic and administrative mentoring to be moderated by the National Universities Commission. Substantive licenses will be issued to well-managed institutions after the 3 years of probation, following their satisfactory performance and growth, within guidelines stipulated by the Commission.
Clearview Television interviewed some of the proprietors.
We will go ahead and take off by September, October this year, by the grace of God. So the school have started automatically.
It was a cocktail of sweet and sour occasions and challenges. Obviously, there were some very challenging moments. At the same time, there were very enlightening moments that culminated in today. So at the end of the day, we were the better for it. Funding has been emphasized and overemphasized over the years. I think that is a critical area for government to look into.
The Nigerian university system has experienced a rapid expansion over the last 2 decades, from less than 40 universities in 1996 to 193 today. Niyi Marasa reported for Clearview Television.
Another top story that dominated the headlines in the week just ended is the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. Queen Elizabeth II announced the death of her beloved husband at Windsor Castle. Reacting to the death of Prince Philip, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the prince inspired the lives of countless young people, paying tribute to the Duke's role as the longest-serving consort in history. Johnson also remembered Prince Philip as one of the last surviving people to have fought in the World War II.
An announcement from the Buckingham Palace says Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh and husband of Queen Elizabeth II, has died at the age of 99. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this Friday morning at Windsor Castle. Prince Philip's death came just weeks after he was discharged from hospital, where he underwent a successful procedure for a pre-existing heart condition after feeling unwell. His passing is a significant moment for the UK after he has been by the Queen's side for her entire 68-year reign on the throne. As soon as the news filtered in, the BBC interrupted its normal programming and went dark as it brought viewers and listeners news of the Duke of Edinburgh's demise. An official notification of his death was also placed outside of Buckingham Palace, while the palace's Union Jack was lowered to half-mast. Speaking on the doorstep of 10 Downing Street, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Prince Philip helped to steer the royal family and the monarchy so that it remains an institution indisputably vital to the balance and happiness of the people.
It was with great sadness that a short time ago I received word from Buckingham Palace that His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh has passed away at the age of 99. Prince Philip earned the affection of generations here in the United Kingdom, across the Commonwealth and around the world. He was the longest serving consort in history, one of the last surviving people in this country to have served in the Second World War.
Prince Philip was born on June 10, 1921, on the Greek island of Corfu, and he served in the Royal Navy with distinction during World War II. He married Princess Elizabeth in 1947 and was by her side during her coronation to the throne in 1953. Together, they had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. The Queen famously described him as her strength and stay. His death came after years of remarkable stamina, in which he undertook more public engagements than much younger senior royals. The Duke was last seen in public carrying out official duties in July 2020 at Windsor Castle, where he transferred an important military role as Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles to the Duchess of Cornwall. He was also pictured at Princess Beatrice's wedding in July and photographed alongside the Queen for his 99th birthday in June. The Duke is expected to be given a royal ceremonial funeral in line with his own wishes, which is expected to take place in 7 days' time.
Also, in the week under review, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a legislation that formally granted him the right to stay in power until 2036. The law, which was signed by the 68-year-old leader, allows him to extend his 20-year rule until he turns 83, Putin's second consecutive and fourth overall presidential term ends in 2024. The year when Russia's previous constitution would have required him to step down. If elected again, he would remain president until 2036, making him the longest-serving leader of Russia since Joseph Stalin and Peter the Great. Recall that Putin had earlier said he was yet to decide whether to run for president again, adding that 2024 was still far off. And in the United States, President Joe Biden issued an order targeting homemade guns known as ghost guns because they are unregistered and untraceable. The president is enacting new measures through an executive order, meaning he does not need approval from Congress. It includes efforts to set rules for certain guns, bolster background checks, and support local violence prevention. However, the president will have an uphill task. The right to bear arms is protected by the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and many people see gun control laws as infringing on these constitutional rights.
316 people are shot every single day. 106 of them die every day. Our flag was still flying at half-staff for the victims of the horrific murder of 8 primarily Asian American people in Georgia, when 10 more lives were taken in a mass murder in Colorado. You probably didn't hear it, but between those two incidents, less than 1 week apart, there were more than 850 additional shootings. 850 that took the lives of more than 250 people and left 500 injured. This is an epidemic, for God's sake.
Hours after the president's address, a gunman killed 1 person and injured 5 others at a cabinet-making shop in Bryan, Texas. A state trooper was also shot and injured while taking the suspect into custody. On Wednesday, 5 people, including 2 young children, were killed in South Carolina. The suspect has been named as former NFL player Philip Adams. This followed 2 mass shootings in March, which left a total of 18 people dead, 1 in Boulder, Colorado, and other in Atlanta, Georgia. And with that report on efforts by the U.S. president to put the use of guns under control, we come to the end of our week in review. Join us same time, same next week for another edition. Thanks for watching. I am Prudence Okonna.